So, like I said, I told her there's no way in the world you're coming. I explained to her how throughout the years you wouldn't come if I started to talk about your sexual problems. Nothing. It was just like, for example, I'll share this with you. You always ask me this, and I wouldn't answer it. Not during our marriage. I'd be like putting a bullet to my head for me to answer this. But anyway, it's just like when we got back from the honeymoon. What a honeymoon! Yeah, where I even tried to perform exorcism on you to get that freaking spirit of what I do know now to be molestation out of you. I do believe firmly that you're molested. I'm going to talk to it. But anyway, so that's mighty. And so then when with Carmen Gill, we started to talk more after that. And it blew me away because, like I said, never, ever in my mind had I ever thought that. And then as we started to talk and we got to it, and I said, well, if this happened, well, how can this be and who can it be? And Carmen Gill was the first one to say that in cases like this, that the odds was 99% that the sexual molester was the father. Yep, she said it. I remember that day walking out after we finished. I remember walking out in a stupor. I was like, I could not believe what I just heard. I could not believe what I just heard. It absolutely blew me away. Blew me away. But you know what? As I started to dwell on it, and as I started to look at our marriage, and I started to look at all of the stuff about you in relation to, you can't say, I mean, even during our marriage, there was at least 2 or 3 times where I cried to you in relation to that you've got to show me some affection. You've got to be warm. You've got to, and crying. And all you could say was, I didn't grow up that way. In our family, we weren't like that. We weren't affectionate. We didn't say nice words. We didn't say da 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 da. That's all you could say. 1991 to 2004. In that area, a total nightmare for me. Never, ever in my life. It's just like when we got home after the honeymoon, and on the very first night, when I get ready to go to bed, and I get into the bed, and you are curled up like a ball. Your knees are to up here, tight. And I said to you, what are you doing? Or something like that. And you said to me, this is the way I sleep. And I said, what? You sleep like this? And you said, yeah, this is the way I sleep. I said, all the time? Yeah, I think I said that, something like that. Yeah, all the time. All I could think of was, oh, hell, what do I have here? And then all I knew was I got a woman with sexual problems. Unbelievable. And then it wasn't too long after that, in the first week, where you told me that if I didn't get you pregnant by December, I'll never forget that. He said if I was in the little sex that we had, that's for darn sure. And it was like in and out. Thank you very much. That's why when Ian in his Facebook, he wrote that I was nothing but a sperm donor. Ian, you're right, man. I mean, you hit it on the nose. That's what your mother wanted. Just to have babies, and that's it. No sex, no thank yous, no nothing, no affection, no nothing. And as I sit here, I should say, before Yeshua, every word that I say is truth, so that my children understand. So that my children understand. And yeah, we had sex. That's exactly what it was. It definitely wasn't lovemaking. It was sex. It's like, excuse me, but it's just like going to prostitute. Get in, get out, end of story. I couldn't believe it. And when you said that to me, that if you weren't pregnant by December, you would never have sex with me, I just floored. Floored. What in the hell did I get into here? I'll be frank with you. I thought about, what do they call that when you annul? But the only problem with annulling is that we did have entry and departure. So how do you annul a marriage with you've already had entry and departure? You can't. Wow, unbelievable, isn't it? But anyway, let's keep going. I mean, it couldn't be touched. I mean, even in the few times during the first 6 months that we had sex, I couldn't touch you. You wouldn't let me touch you like a man touches a woman, in privacy between them two. Couldn't be touched. Couldn't be touched. That's why, as I mentioned here previously, you'll never get married. And I'll tell you why. Because in the next marriage, listen to my words, you're not going to be able to find an excuse for your problems to be able to dump it on the man, whoever that next husband, if there was. And you know it, and I know it. And therefore, you won't get married. Because that next guy is not going to be able to touch you. And you're going to finally have to look at yourself and say, something's wrong with me. Something happened. And you've got all of the physical and mental traits of a woman that was sexually molested as a child or a preteen. I believe, personally, I believe it happened in your early teen years. And I'm going to talk about that later. And Isaac, Christian, and Katya, I know this is hard for you, and I love you, but you need to know the truth. You need to know all the truth. And you might not be able to hang on to this conversation. You might have to stop it. I don't know. But it'll always be here on YouTube. Always be here on YouTube. And sooner or later you'll come and you'll listen to your father. And at the end of this series, whenever it ends, I thought about it last night. How many videos? It's 10 minutes per video on YouTube. I thought, my goodness, I'm talking about probably about 20 hours of video to cover 14 years of marriage and then the divorce and the junk you did. Well, not 14 years of marriage. Let me go back on that. 1991 to 2004, when your father and you kicked your father. You know, I'm going to share something to you about that, so that you understand the spiritual implications as well as your father. Do you realize you didn't kick me out of the house? Do you realize that you overthrew with your father Yeshua, who is the head of our house? Do you realize the spiritual implications of that? Do you realize the judgment of that? Let me tell you something. I don't want anybody to go to hell. That even includes you. But we send ourselves to hell with our actions and our words. And let me tell you something. I will be absolutely astonished if you and your father make it into heaven. Absolutely astonished. Completely. And looking at this whole thing, I believe you came close to and possibly broke every single one of the 10 commandments of Yahuwah in this divorce and in this marriage. Unbelievable. But anyway, let's keep going. So, it was Carmen Gill who first said that. And let me tell you something. I was blown away. I could not believe it. I refused to believe it when I walked out of there. Couldn't be. Especially when she said that the odds was that it was your father. And I refused to believe it. That's when I started to seek others to get another opinion, because I didn't know what to do. It was so mind-blowing that I didn't know what to do. That's next one coming up.